PH with Tabitha Ponte.
For this episode 2, welcome Marcy Abadi Rhoads.
Marcy, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. Why don't you tell people who you are? I mean, I've known you for a long time.
I know. I'm actually in your book, even.
I know. People don't even know about my book, but that's okay. One day they'll care more, maybe.
So I'm an architect and I'm an accessibility specialist. I was born in Panama and I now live in Dallas, Texas, and I have my own practice, and I'm a mom and a wife and a community person, and I love being an architect, and I love helping people with design for accessibility and making the world a little bit more accessible for people with disabilities and everything.
And to be honest, I love that about your work. I always have a reason why you're in the book and here. So we have about 13 minutes to speak of health in general. The reason for PH with Tabitha Ponte is public health in sort of the big picture. But my first question to you to answer is, how do you feel about the last couple of weeks and the madness with DEI and DEI going away? Because, it's very interesting, at least, I've said to people, there's a big difference between incentivizing something that a lot of people abuse to law and regulation and something like ADA compliance, which is actually a legal issue. So why don't you expand on that?
So I honestly don't think that the ADA and DEI are related. And I'm going to tell you why. Because ADA is a civil rights law. Just like when in the 1960s there was a civil rights law for minorities, like they were being discriminated against, right? And so I think DEI is a little bit, like you said, I think it's a little bit of an abuse. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because I believe that we need to include people, right? We need to be more cognizant of the fact that everybody's, is supposed to have the equal rights, and everybody's supposed to be not discriminate. You can't discriminate against people because of the way they look, what religion, what disability or ability. That's set in stone. That is a civil rights under our Bill of Rights.
Correct.
And okay. So obviously there are laws already in place that prevent that from happening. Whether or not people are using that law, I think the DEI it started becoming quotas. And I don't think
Yes.
I don't think that that's what it was meant to do. I don't think it was meant to say, okay, we're not going to give, if you're qualified, we're not going to give you the job because we need to fill our quota.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it was about.
And I think it was a quota, and really for this sort of agenda that is out there. And I won't get too caught up in what that means, but it's sort of an abused, or it was becoming an abused process. The way that sometimes people abuse, especially in construction, people when they abuse the WBE,
Yes.
right?
And
system.
And I can tell the difference. I can tell that I get more jobs because I'm a woman, or because they need to fill that quota. I mean, I'm also good at what I do, thank God. But I think that that's what we need to, I think that that's what it started to be.
Yeah.
It started to be like in our industry, it's a good old boy network, right? So the men would always just hire men, and they would hire all their buddies, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't giving people like me or people that look different than them the opportunity. So they had to create laws, unfortunately, to make sure that they weren't, so then it became all about that, about the quota. It was never about, is this person qualified, and are they also an underutilized business?
Yeah.
So
and I think it really not just businesses, but people in people in positions, right? In all kinds of corporations and organizations, university systems, and a lot of different sort of incentivized companies. But we're past that. You are do you deal in your work a lot with hospital systems and healthcare? Yes.
Yes, not a lot, but I do. I do assist the long-term care and medical care. Yes.
Yeah, and how do you see? I mean, I always have this story about how hospitals are not quite what people think they are, or they don't behave the way that people think they do. I'll give you a very small example. I recently saw like the best voted hospital in wherever list and for care, and little do people know that that hospital doesn't do care, they do real estate, and care is contracted as independent contractors. So it's like people don't really understand. So to ask you, how do you see their general behavior when it comes to accessibility? Do you ever see them choosing profit and bottom line over accessibility? And because they do, right? They do.
They're not allowed to, first of all, because and I'm going to tell you why I like the ADA so much. Even though I'm all about everybody doing the right thing, people don't do the right thing, so they need to be told, right? So in Texas, for example, they can't get away with profit versus what they're going to do. They have to do the accessibility. That's part of the law, and they won't get their permit, or they won't get their CO, or they won't get without it. So they have so in Texas we have that law, and I know that the federal law exists even though they don't. See, for me in Texas is different because we review drawings and we do inspections as part of the process.
Yeah.
And the hospitals have to send the architect of the hospital has to send drawings to somebody like me to look at the drawings, make sure that they're going to be good for handicap accessibility. And then when they finish construction, they have to have an inspection. Yeah. Otherwise they get in trouble with the state.
Is that similar to the system the Florida has called ACA in the state of Florida?
Yes, and in California too.
Yeah.
So they have those. So some states have that. I don't know what happens with the other states that don't have that. That it's more like the DOJ gets involved, maybe.
Yeah.
But and I can see the difference because I actually did an assessment on a in New Mexico in one of the hospitals there, and they were not accessible at all. And you're right, it's about profits for them. Yeah. And so doing the right thing is something that it's mandated, sadly, that you have to do the right thing. And it, so I see it more in the public sector, in the private sector rather than the hospitals, that people don't want to do it. People just don't want to, but they're made to. Yeah. And until the culture changes, the law is going to have to override their desire to make a profit.
Yeah, but sometimes law, though, only works backward based on cases and sort of legal action, rather than enforcement. But that has a lot to do with the local capacities and any, but
right. And the culture changes slowly, right? So I know that I give classes, I do education and so that it starts there, and I can tell the difference between some. Yeah.
Will you do classes in education anywhere in the country? If somebody said, "Hey, Marcy, I saw you on PH with Tabitha. Can I get, can I get some training?"
If they need me and then they want me to come out and give a class on how to make their hospitals accessible, yes.
That's fabulous.
That's the thing, is that I can tell, because we need, as a professional, design professionals need continuing education. So I can tell the difference between who's interested in the topic and who's just here to get their CEU. And I see them rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
But it's sad because they're like, okay, we have to do this.
Because they've never been bound to a wheelchair long term.
Right.
Have you seen the experiment where people get bound to a wheelchair for 24 hours or 48 hours? You do that? Yeah.
So here in Texas, we're actually about to do, hopefully, we're going to get selected to do it. We're going to have a convention. The Texas architects are coming to Dallas, Texas, in October. And I signed up to create, everybody sits, we have a wheelchair that they can sit on throughout the convention. And then we're going to have a panel discussion after. It's like the greatest thing. You're going to sit there and feel it.
Like be in the shoes of somebody that cannot reach a thing and that you can bound. Like you don't get to stand up and see what that feels like.
You can't cheat.
I think that would change people in general if people really tried that all the time. I always had for the towers. I always thought about things of that sort to really sort of settle people in the team to what it means to do that. But changing topics, we have a little bit of time left, is the future, right? what do you see about the future of ADA with respect to health? Is it a health issue? And then do you see automation and technology being able to sort of do what you do the way that you do it? And can it be sort of more streamlined, or you see that's a no? Like there's always going to be the process.
It's such an interesting question because I honestly have tried to streamline mine and take me out of the equation, and I can't. It's like I don't know, you could put set of drawings on a scanner and have them find all the ADA mistakes. I don't think that I mean, or maybe walk through the building and find any mistakes that they made. You can't take away the human factor. I don't think. I mean, maybe. I mean, just like we were discussing,
I've seen some AI systems be very sophisticated about certain things with plans. For example, there's one out there that does civil engineering, like will lay out the whole site, the whole parking for you and everything. But analysis, because the thing with spatial organization, at least in my opinion, is that there's a flow and then there's one thing to the next. It's not as simple as a 12-inch right dimension. I think it's more than like also a human behavior that's
right. I mean,
necessary.
I think that the AI could do what I do in a drawing level. I think so. I think that we could create. I don't know how exactly. You're the code person. You're the coder. But I mean, that basically that would be really a great thing, great tool to streamline. Like, okay, so going through the drawing and finding mistakes. They may not find everything, but they'll see, okay.
Or at least get it started, right? Like almost like an initial quality control that could potentially lessen your work. But
is this door too close, or is this in the way of the clearance? I mean, yeah, you could probably do that.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people really quick how they can find you? And also, by the way, people, if you find her through this video, you better mention PH with Tabitha Ponte. I'm just saying.
Yes. So my website is abadiaccess.com. Abadi, ABADI.
And I will publish it for everybody, Abadi Access, and also publications that you have, right? Your publications.
Yeah, so I have a couple of books that I wrote a couple of books on the ADA, applying the ADA, published by Wiley, and understanding the ADA. So those are two good books. That my applying the ADA is about building by building, like different building types. Healthcare is one of them. So there's one chapter on how to design for long-term care facilities. And
that is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. Our 15 minutes are up. You know, part of the 15 minutes, the format is because none of us seem to have time to listen to anything that is longer than 15 minutes, especially when we have kids, right? So my girl, I don't know if you remember me before I had my girl, and now she's 8, and she's like 8 going on 18. Yeah, she's big girl.
She's 21 already.
Oh my goodness, an adult. No, I remember when she was like 10. You're killing me.
I know. We just burned her fake ID the other day.
Wow. But anyway, thank you so much, Marcy. I think it was fascinating. People are gonna love the show, this episode, and I will send them your way and to your books. And anybody, if you have any questions, you can find her abadiaccess.com. Thank you, Marcy. Have a great rest of your day and week. We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
During this episode, we spoke of Applying the ADA, authored by Marcy Abadi Rhoads, published by Wiley. The link is here.